It's your first day in Minecraft. You spawned in a desert biome, but plot twist, this world is an entire desert. Well, that's probably not good. Today we're talking about ideas for houses you can make when you're locked in a single biome. I know that, of course, your world is not going to be an entire desert, but this video is about working with what's available, showing you what's possible. So let's see what's possible given the restrictions on our block palette and survivability. The desert is obviously filled with just sand and sandstone, so the house has got to be made of that at least. We aren't going to have any access to wood unless we found an underground mineshaft, but we'd have to be pretty lucky for that. To get tools in this biome, we're going to have to break the dead bushes all around for sticks and get lucky finding a desert temple that has iron or diamonds. That way we can craft a pickaxe that not only lets us get sandstone easier, but also opens up our opportunities for new blocks. Alright, desert temple. Let's go see if we can get some tools now. Now that we found a desert temple, we have one new unique block, and that's orange terracotta. I'm gonna speed through the boring stuff, so first, let's get the shape in for our base. Nice, it's just sandstone and stuff. Then we can add some orange terracotta to the inside of this circle base area to add some much needed color in. But that's not it. When we're in the desert with nothing but tan sand, we've gotta make use of all the generated structures we can find to add in color. On the horizon there is a pillager outpost, which is super easy to find in the desert especially. This gives us dark oak, which is one of our only wood options here on the desert surface. I thought of using this as a roof on our base, but since it clashes so much, I'll just use it as a floor here, which I think still looks nice. Dark oak can also be used as a detailing block where we put lanterns and buttons, which kind of look like the wooden framing inside these desert structures. Oh, and if you're stranded in the desert, don't forget to grab the wool from these tents outside the pillager outpost and any other relevant blocks like the pumpkins. We could use the wool to craft a bed if we really needed, and we could also use all this stuff to detail our inner circle. I simply dyed these dark green for some color variation using cactus nearby, and then just made a small canopy here. We don't really need to use that wool for a bed though, because the other obvious structure is the desert village. This place is a treasure trove for our base, and honestly, if you go and attempt this single biome challenge, I would recommend just grabbing as many unique blocks as possible from the village. The biggest one for me were these jungle doors. This is the only other place we can get wood in this biome, unless of course we went underground and waited for Wandy T to come stop by, but this isn't a Mog Swamp video. This is an Ash's Den video, alright? Those jungle doors are a lifesaver for this build, and I mean that literally, because now we are protected from mobs getting in. In the village, we're also going to grab terracotta from the houses, this single clay block from the stonemason house, trust me, flower pots, hay bales, and these white glazed terracotta blocks. We can use this single clay block to smelt down into bricks, then craft into a full brick and create the field mason banner pattern. Trust me, there is no clay in any of the rivers. This is the only spot you can actually get clay in a desert-only world. Anyways, we can add those couple banners to the front, just spice things up. Even using the pink dye from the cactus flowers. The white glazed terracotta is just a cool decoration block. Maybe add it to one of your structures to make it feel a little more special. Perhaps this is where you keep your valuables, for example. And then I add this little fountain with a flower pot on top. And of course, the crowning champion of the desert, dead bush. Finally, to top everything off, I made some white concrete powder using bones from the desert temple, then mined diorite and granite to complete the roofs, and then just smelted the ever-abundant sand to make some windows, and boom, our desert-only base is done. It looks pretty good. But you see, this brave cat may have survived the harsh desert landscape and built an abode worthy of praise, but on the other end of the Minecraft equator is an equally harsh, equally unforgiving place, in an often forgotten biome, the ice spikes. This biome has a unique set of challenges and is far more difficult than its hot sandy counterpart, and just like the desert, there are no trees. It's likely you'll find other snowy biomes in this area in a regular world, but for the sake of this challenge, we have just ice spikes. No villages, no igloos, and only one saving grace on the surface, ruined portals. If you are lucky enough to get one of these before you die of hunger, you might find a pickaxe and some golden carrots, which will allow you to get stone and not die in this harsh climate. This still leaves one major issue. We have no wood, so no crafting table or craftable tools. My friends, this leaves only one option, which is to brave the caves without any gear and basically no food. We have to get lucky and find either a trial chamber or a mineshaft if we want even the slightest chance of building a base, let alone surviving. Unless... Wait, what? No, I've never seen this. My YouTuber luck isn't even close to running dry yet because this tree is improbably rare. At least, so I thought when I was in creative testing beforehand. But as it turns out, they're just about as rare as a ruined portal. They'll often spawn on the edges of very surface level caves. With wood, we're able to craft some stone tools and start gearing up a little bit, powered by golden carrots from this ruined portal I found. Now, I still want to get geared up though, obviously, so I hopped into a cave and immediately I found... Oh my god, you're actually kidding me. I swear this isn't fabricated, but down in the cave, I was able to gear up to eventually get full diamond gear and get string to craft a bed. So it turned this biome challenge into something that I thought was going to be really hard to survive in, and it actually ended up being laughably simple. But this video is about base building. First and foremost, we have to find a viable ice spike. Living up in the air will keep us safe from all the mobs below and give us a nice vantage point. I crafted a bunch of light blue concrete powder to act as framing for a frigid tower. In these giant frozen ice spike lakes, the game blessed us with sand, gravel, and clay. Holy ents, this is going to be crucial. Back in the desert, there was no clay in the rivers as we know, so this is a huge plus. I gathered a bunch of that and added the light blue framing to the tower, just kind of filling in the holes that are naturally there. I thought this was a cool way to use the natural generation of the ice spikes. Since we got lapis from the caves, I smelted the clay into terracotta, crafting it then into light blue terracotta, then smelting it into light blue glazed terracotta to add as, small little details on the tower itself. Luckily, we're able to keep the night away using this bed I crafted from string in the mineshaft. Now, at this point, we can dig out the center, and this is where we'll place a water column going to the height of the ice spike. I wish I could make this soul sand bubble elevator, but of course we're barred from going to nether because that counts as a new biome. I added this clay base to the tower, giving it more structure before heading up to the top, where we'll use a bunch of stones to just build out a nice room and roof. Since we actually have access to clay in the frozen lakes, we can build a super sturdy, super nice brick roof. It's just, a little cold and a little dangerous getting the clay. My favorite aspect of this tower though is the white bay windows. Using white dye acquired from skeleton bones and sand from the lake to make glass, it looks very done now, but I think we can add a few more details. How about punching a few blue windows in the tower? I used full blocks so it's not hard to swim up and down the column, and I finally took some light blue stained glass paints and added those on the outside frame. This might look a bit weird to some, but I think that from afar, it gives the colors a nice soft, blended look. Ending that challenge with full diamond armor and a comfortable home was far from what I expected. I want to build something really nice now though. The Mangrove swamp has some of my favorite blocks, and this whole place is a wetland forest, so no struggles with finding wood here. In fact, no struggles at all. Or so I thought. The greatest enemies before the swamp were the lack of wood and food, but now the greatest enemy is none other than myself. With access to so many blocks, so many of my favorite blocks, I might get a bit carried away. It's an evil curse that has plagued Minecraft builders for generations, causing a lack of uploads on YouTube, and in the most horrific documented cases, burnout. But no, I'm not going to let that stop me, unless there's a second horrifically horrible, oh so terrible obstacle. The Mangrove Swamp has no sand. This means no concrete powder, and most notably no glass. I relied on these things in each previous biome, but now I have to push on without sand. Oh great Jens, I need a miracle here, please. Two mighty terrible problems stand in my way, but well, I've been rambling, I've been gearing up, and I think we can start building the house. First, I mined some stones in a nearby cave, then grabbed some clay as I wanted to build this base on like a floating rock in the water, and I think it would be cool to terraform with that. I even added glow lichen to the side to blend some of the stones better, and considering resources are so readily available in this biome, it just made sense to get creative and be just a tad more ambitious. We're going for a miniature floating castle vibe here, but as we know, there are limitations to the colors we can choose, so I went to get some mud and dirt. I can't say this castle is going to be able to defend very well, that being said, and what I have in my head, I don't really think it's going to be a castle. Let's call this an outpost, especially now that you can see the size of the thing. Alright, look, I'm on the third base here. I mean, seriously, I wish I could spend 12 hours on every single base in this video, but, there's limitations, you know what I mean? In the beginning, I totally thought Ambitious Ash would take over, but actually, I've maintained creative composure, as I call it. At this point, the only thing to gather is mangrove wood. And yeah, it's pretty annoying to gather, we all know this, but it's far easier than needing to travel on little to no food in the ice spikes biome, hoping on like a tree or a mine shaft. never mind. This biome is actually way harder. I wasn't having luck finding string for a fishing rod, so my food source was rotten flesh for the first half of this biome. I mean, I couldn't find any animals in the mangrove swamp either. Nevertheless, I survived, and all in all, I placed in the roof, and since I found a ruined nether portal before, I was able to mix in some netherrack to the mangrove parts, so it was easy. Up until the tower, I wanted to use packed mud bricks, but the issue with this is that they are made of wheat. We can't find any villages in the mangrove swamp for hay bales, so the only way to do this is to grow wheat. It was really annoying, but I actually started early on in this world, so it was mostly a grind rather than an inconvenience. If you just ignore the fact that I couldn't use any of that wheat to craft bread to have a better chance of survival in this world, so you win some, you lose some. Finishing the tower, then adding a few details, and this single biome starter base, I would say, is complete. Completely wrong. You fool, where are the windows? Oh, that's right, there are no windows because we don't have glass. Mangrove trapdoors look kind of lame, fences don't look right. We need oak trapdoors. It's the only way. We need mineshaft luck again. I was dead set. It was the only way to complete this base. But while I was exploring, I came across something I didn't expect that I thought was pointless at first, but a trial chamber is another structure that generates anywhere in any biome, just like mineshafts or ruined portals. And there's one type of room in the trial chamber that spawns with a mangrove tree? Well, that is disappointing. It takes the biome type and makes the tree change. I was kind of hoping it would be like an oak tree so I could craft oak trapdoors. So we still need to find a... Scaffolding is not what I expected to use as windows, but I think this will work. Trial chambers, weirdly enough, spawn with a bunch of bamboo items. It's really peculiar to me, but scaffolding ends up making a unique window for our base here. I think now we can call this base complete, and although I'm a cat, I think I just love water, because our next biome is the warm ocean. How can we build if there's no land? Well, that's because there is land. For some reason, when you generate a single biome world with warm oceans, it actually comes with these big sand islands. These aren't deserts. They're actually treasure troves with shipwrecks and ruins. This made gearing up super easy, but to make this a little more challenging, I want to actually build a base in the water. We have access to most wood types from shipwrecks, blocks from coral reefs, and all those generated structures that spawn in every biome as we discussed earlier. The early game was obviously super easy since we have shipwrecks galore. Within 20 minutes, I already had full gear and tools. This biome is essentially pretty easy. The main problem here is actually our lack of blocks. This is kind of like the desert challenge, except we don't have villages, desert temples, or cactus for green dye. Coral reefs are basically just another gray block since I didn't feel like grinding for silk touch, but finding bamboo in this shipwreck gave me a fun idea. I'm tired of starter bases being limited to an A-frame structure. The ocean by nature demands creativity anyway, so we might as well go super unique with this base. This is Ambitious Ash right here. He's a menace in this challenge, trust me. Don't give him caffeine in free time. You will love the result and hate where your weekend went. By his estimates, he's going to need like 1,000 dead coral blocks to build his starter base. So just don't listen to him, don't pay attention to him, and hey, why are we still recording this foot? I struggled a lot figuring out a block palette for this single biome build, but since sea pickles are abundant in the warm ocean and they craft into lime dye, it felt like the perfect fitting color. Down in the depths, I gathered an obscene amount of tuff and deep slate. Went back up to the surface, gathered an obscene amount of sand, gravel, and sea pickles. Then I finally planted down not an obscene amount of bamboo, but rather a moderate amount of bamboo, since I didn't actually get that much from shipwrecks. I got to work building what I call the Limestone Observatory, a green monolith constructed in the ocean. It really was just a grind at the end of the day. I gathered all the blocks and it was just down to like the building, which was pretty fast, and structurally this thing is pretty simple. It's basically a glorified rock with some shading on it. The reason we needed all the bamboo was to blend the bright lime to the darker grays. For a starter base in the ocean, I think this really stands out a lot, and it's easy to get lost in the ocean when you're exploring, so yeah, much cooler than a houseboat in my honest opinion. Keeping with the warm theme, we're adventuring into the jungle. This is the biome I'm the most excited for, since jungles are actually my favorite biome, and honestly, the only way to go is with a super sick treehouse. The jungle isn't exactly a difficult biome. It has treacherous terrain, and it might be difficult to navigate at night with all the mobs, but that's it. So for this one, I'm banning myself from accessing any cave. If I even step foot in what faintly appears to be a cave, I have to delete the world and start over. Even this side of the cliff where I'm digging stone, I am making the entrance of a cave here. I can't touch it. You know, all this is just to spice things up. The unique item we have in the jungle, however, is cocoa beans, giving us brown dye. So we'll definitely make use of that in our treehouse design. I did a lot of traveling, not really finding anything exciting, unless you count melons as exciting, but that's when I saw him. No, not Jens, although that would be pretty great. It was a beautiful, legendary, ancient temple. Oh, a jungle temple. Ooh, gotta watch out for that cave right there, but this is really good. Before you go saying it, the inside of the temple is not a cave, even though it's made of stone and has a wall and roof. This is distinct because it's not natural, or something like that. I don't know, you can write the rules in the comments if you want. From these structures, we can get some Europe items, but we can also get redstone. We can use this to craft not a redstone contraption. No, we don't do that here, and it's definitely not because I'm scared of redstone. We can craft note blocks to use as decoration. After exploring a little more, I found this nice island in the middle of the water that felt like perfect starter base territory. And I got to work chopping down the trees and shrubs on this island, but of course kept the big one so we can make the treehouse. After making 4 other bases, my energy to go big and beyond with this one was, how do I put this, decaying, like the shrubs on this island. So we might not have the world's most extravagant treehouse, but I think what we're gonna have is pretty cool. I got sand and gravel from the water nearby, so we can craft brown concrete as a base for our tower, and then just using a bit of jungle for the walls, with bamboo and oak as roofs. Here in the jungle, wood is no issue at all, so you bet I'm going to be using it to its full advantage. And one structure isn't enough, so we gotta have another one up top. But something is just missing from this. Ah, right, remember all that redstone we gathered from the jungle temples? Well, now we can finally craft those note blocks to put at the bottom of the treehouse frames. That's a nice little bit of structure and detail, but of course, we don't have enough redstone for the whole thing. So I ventured out to a couple jungle temples, came back, and added the missing note blocks. I think we can call this survival treehouse base complete. And with that, today we've explored 5 worlds and 5 bases in single biomes. Let me know which biomes I should do next, and if you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe to see more in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.